hello there. It's been a while. Remember me? The drinker is indeed back, and I'm wearing sunglasses today, not because I'm trying to maintain a character or anything, but because it's really fucking bright in here. I've got the blinds closed and the light is still coming in. It's ridiculous. It's one of those rare sunny days in Scotland. But hey, we've got outstanding super chats from the open bar the other night, and I gotta get through them because I am never gonna leave one unanswered. So hey, I've got my zombie mug full of Irish coffee, and I got a few hours this afternoon. So let's get started, shall we? It's just me today, by the way. Muller unfortunately wasn't able to make it, so I will do my best to keep you entertained by myself. Anyway, let's look at the first super chat that we had from the other night. It was from Master of Puppets, who said, Hail Drinker, just finished the Ryan Drake series. Nice. Awesome. Do you think you'll ever go back to them? I'd like to see what happened to them all. Loved how you dealt with the drop a knife and catch it with your other hand thing. Yeah, I've seen that shit played out so many times in movies and stuff. You know, characters like about to stab someone and they're blocking it, and so they drop the knife and catch it with their other hand and knife them. And I thought, it'd be quite cool to counter that. So, yeah, I had a little bit of that in my final novel. But, yeah, as for going back to it, I would definitely be up for doing that because the series kind of finished in 2011. So it's more than 10 years ago. I mean, it wasn't 2011 when I wrote it, but that's when it's set. And so, yeah, it would be quite interesting to skip forward to the present day and see what the characters got up to because I definitely left the ending open for more adventures, and yeah, I think there's a lot you can do. So I'm kind of weighing up what book I write next. You know, do I write a sequel to Dark Harvest, or do I do something completely different, another standalone book, or do I do like a new series of Ryan Drake books? I will wait and see, but I'm sure I'll get the urge eventually. But for now, yeah, I'm just kind of focusing on Dark Harvest and a few projects that are going on in the world of Ryan Drake that I'll be able to give you more information on soon, hopefully. Ted Cummett says, I liked Andor. It wasn't the best, but I had fun. Well, that's all you can say, really, at the moment. Yeah, I'm glad you did. And, we spent quite a while talking about it on Open Bar the other night. The consensus seems to be that it's not amazing, but it's probably the best TV show in the Star Wars universe that Disney have put out, so it's got a bit of potential, and it feels like it was actually written by adults for adults to some extent. So, man, I'll see how it goes. It could all change, it could become shit. I'll reserve judgment until I've seen the series, I guess, but I'm liking it so far. Doey says, as someone not watching She-Hulk or Rings of Power to compare, I'm watching House of the Dragon. I feel it's way overpraised. I watched Andor. I'm 3 episodes and out. Disney can't do Star Wars. I mean, I'm sorry that happened for you, man. Like I say, I like it so far. There could be an element of lowered expectations because it's Disney Star Wars. Yeah, I'm trying to stay as objective about it as I can be, but I'll reserve judgment until I've seen the whole thing. But as for House of the Dragon, yeah, I mean, we talked about it the other night as well. Like, the first half of the season, I was very much like, okay, it's impressive from a technical point of view. It feels a lot more like The Crown than Game of Thrones. Like, it's very much just about the political maneuvering of royal dynasties and so on, and like trying to secure bloodlines and inheritance of titles, all that stuff. Not a huge amount of like actual tangible stuff going on. It's fairly, what would you call it? It's fairly cautious as a show. But it really picked up with episode 5. Things are changing quite rapidly now, and so it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I'm still not fully, how can I put it, like emotionally invested in it. It's more like I can enjoy it on an intellectual level so far as an impressive achievement, relatively speaking, but it's not gripped me yet. But again, I'll see where it goes. It's definitely proven to be better than I expected anyway, because man, before it came out, I was shitting on it, saying that nobody would be interested, and the it was just going to flop basically. So fucking color me wrong on that one. Wait, what can I say? It was weird. On the day it came out, the premiere, nobody was talking about it on social media. I even made a tweet talking about that, how I didn't even know the show was out that day until one random person happened to have mentioned it, and that was all. There was no buzz around it whatsoever. It just seems to have, like, crept out the gate. But hey, it's gradually amassed a following, and apparently the opening numbers were really good. It just didn't seem to generate the initial hype. So who knows, man? We'll see where it goes. Rob the Builder says, Molar, I ordered your plushie with 2 hours left. Almost forgot. Drinker's plushie would have been left alone. Oh, that would have been tragic. I'm enjoying Dark Harvest. Drinker, good stuff. Thank you very much, man. And I'm glad you've got a little buddy to put next to your Drinker plushie. White Knight Leo says, rumor has it Rings of Power started as a Dragon Age pitch. I wouldn't be surprised, man. The thing is, even as just like a generic fantasy story, it's shit. Never mind like the whole, Lord of the Rings contingent of it. Yeah, I'm gonna tear it a new one, man. Unless it somehow turns around magically, which I would be very surprised about. Yeah, once we get to the end of season 1, I'm going all in. The Biv says Andor feels a lot like some of the old EU books, the expanded universe. Yeah, I mean, I'll take your word for it. I never really got into the expanded universe, but yeah, it just feels like fairly restrained, low-level stuff. Just seeing what life is like out on the frontier for your average person. And I think that's kind of interesting, and it's refreshing after all the fucking, galaxy-changing events of the movies. Yeah, like Mandalorian tried to tap into that, but then it went down the epic adventure road to some extent as well. And so, yeah, maybe they can stick with it with this for the time being. Nebraska Because says Disney Star Wars is lifeless. I'm 55 and grew up with the greatness of Star Wars as a child. This is dead. Stop kicking the corpse of it. Move on. I mean, look, we're reviewers. It's our job to talk about stuff that's coming out right now, and there's some things that we probably wouldn't watch if we weren't, kind of expected to review it. Sometimes you're pleasantly surprised, sometimes not. But there's other things that we're still kind of interested in, and Andor is one of those ones that piqued our interest, I suppose. But yeah, I think in terms of the Star Wars generations, the generations of fans, I guess you guys are part of the greatest generation because you got to see it actually come out in movie theaters. So that's an experience none of us will have. Like I was, yeah, I was born after Return of the Jedi even came out, so I never got a chance to see any of those films in cinemas. Excuse me. Mayron Kane says, the Drinker reviews Star Wars Larry when? Give me time. Give me time indeed. I'll see what I can do. The next one is, sorry, bear with me 1 second. Fucking phone's going off here. Yeah. That's actually a message from Mahler saying that he could join me for this. So, give me 1 second and I will send him an invite. Because it's always good to have someone else involved in this. I didn't actually think he was going to have time for this today, but he may just have. So, this is an unusual thing to happen when I'm doing an offline stream. Let me see. I'm sure you would rather hear from him as well, rather than just me prattling on for like an hour. So I'm going to send him the invite and we'll just see what happens. Alright, there we go. So, next one is JD, who says, probably been asked 1,000 times already, but do you think you'll give Edge Runners a chance? It's only one of 2 anime series that I've enjoyed. So this is like Cyberpunk Edge Runners. So, I mean, not really having played any of Cyberpunk, I wouldn't be in a great place to judge it in relation to the games or anything. But, I'll give it a watch. I can try and judge it on its own merits. People have been saying great things about it, so hey, give it a try. Next one is Larry, who gave me a thumbs up, so thanks, man. Nebraska Because says, I feel sad. You will never know the passion. There are no words that can capture the excitement of growing up with the Star Wars movies. Yeah, just fucking rub it in, why don't you? Yeah, man. Like I say, even for my generation, who kind of grew up after the original trilogy, we could still look back and enjoy it and have that attachment to it, like it was still part of our childhoods. But for people who actually got to be there for that initial, that initial hype, that passion and enthusiasm for it, yeah, I don't suppose we'll ever quite equal it. But yeah, you were lucky that you got to experience it, man. RB says the sea told me that Rings of Power is garbage. Well, the sea never lies, so yeah, it is indeed garbage. Joseph's Dots says I was balls deep in Mahler's destruction of TLJ and completely forgot that this started. Mahler, how could you? Cheers, gents. Well, what can I say? I mean, you can always go back to Mahler's destruction of TLJ because there's plenty of it, believe me. And yeah, it's good stuff, man. KC Bondurant says, has anyone read the She-Hulk comics? I'm furious that they ruined the character. Just her basic stats are so wrong, which illustrates the lack of research. 1 ton? Seriously? Try 75 tons. I swear it's Kathleen Kennedy again. Who the fuck knows who's involved in this? I just think zero fucks were given in the making of this show. It's really how it feels. Yeah, man. I mean, the writers didn't seem to care. They seemed to hire people who had very little knowledge of the comic books or anything, and yeah, this is the result. I don't think they cared much about sticking to it. And when I get round to reviewing it, I want to make a point of this. You know, that the comic book character was really well received, and it's not a case of like, well, people just don't want to see a female Hulk or a female superhero. Like the comic books were really popular, but they were popular because they were fun and the writers were prepared to have a bit of fun with the concept. And you know, the Jennifer in that, from what I've seen and from what people have told me, you know, she was kind of flirty and she was kind of not raunchy, but you know, she was aware of like why people found her attractive and stuff, and she played with it a little bit. And you know, she became an enjoyable character as a result. And this is just, you know, the polar opposite. There's zero fun and there's zero humor involved in this show. So yeah, I want to try and make a point of like exploring that and that difference and that wasted opportunity. Garbage Guy says, I noticed no one is talking about Kid Andor's cringy Beyond Thunderdome origin story. It's a bit of a weird one. Like, yeah, he was just kind of on this tribal planet. You know, got picked up by someone else and then just taken away. And yeah, it's. I guess they wanted to give him some kind of origin. Personally, I didn't need to know necessarily where he came from as a child. Like, it was enough to see how he became the resistance or the rebel fighter that he was. You know, how he went from that frightened civilian who was terrified to pull the trigger to being like a kick-ass fighter. That was the origin story I cared about, and this just felt like a slightly unnecessary addition. We have the long man with us. Bear with me. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Let me just get my headset on because otherwise it's going to echo like crazy. So hold on. Yeah. All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So just to set the scene for you, Mahler, this is just an offline stream. So yeah, I'm just catching up on the super chats and got a fair ways into it. We've been going for about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so.
All right, cool.
All right, nice one, man. There was, I think there was one for you just back there a little bit. Oh yeah, Joseph Dots, who said, I was balls deep in Mahler's destruction of TLJ, and I completely forgot that this stream had started. Mahler, how could you?
Oh, how is that my fault? I guess I distract people with my videos. It's my bad.
I was pointing out though that there's plenty of TLJ deconstruction to go around, so we can always get back to it after.
Oh yeah,
after the stream.
Big old pause button. You know, you'll be fine.
The last commenter as well, Garbage Guy, he made a point about Andor and his kind of Beyond Thunderdome origin story for Andor as a kid. You know,
right?
I assume that they were meant to be some kind of like, I don't know, descendants of a ship that crashed on that planet or whatever. They all seem to be wearing like cobbled together clothes and like equipment that they don't quite understand and stuff. I kind of assumed that's what it was.
I'd have to give it another look. I obviously I've only registered them as like, oh, I guess they're indigenous to this planet and that the Empire popped over and they've been mining. But is there more to it than that? Like there's more going on. One of the things I noticed was like there's just no adults, or at least nobody over like age like mid-20s.
This is what makes me think that in the, I don't know, say they were in a ship or something and it crashed, like the crew got killed, like their parents essentially, and they were left to survive by themselves, and that's why they kind of had to scavenge whatever gear they could and They formed this like primitive tribal culture, I suppose. It just seems to be implying more than just they happen to be an indigenous people that live there, and there's just no adults for some reason, unless they were all, I don't know, conscripted into the empire or something like that. But
Yeah.
even then, I think the empire would have done something with the kids, either like executed them or, taken them away to eventually become stormtroopers as they grew up.
Yeah, you'd think they wouldn't just let a like almost tribal group of indigenous people around all of the settlements for mining and stuff, but specifically the Empire wouldn't do that. You'd think that they would be like, "Oh, I better wipe them out just to be sure."
The First Order, I mean, they're dumb as fuck, so they can
Yeah.
fucking do anything. Like, all bets are off with them. So the next one is Chris2401, who says, you disagree with the party, exile, enjoy that purity spiral. Not sure what that's referring to, but okay. Thomas Jones says, finally managed to catch you live. How's it going, lads? And that was for £90, so thank you very much, my friends. And it's a real tragedy that we never actually got to this super chat while we were live, but hopefully you get to see this at least. I think we were going pretty well. Some good chat the other night. Seamus Rogers says, Drinker, can you please tell my wife Lauren to go away now? I can indeed, yeah. Lauren, go away now. There you go. Frank Knox says, name one alcoholic drink that you'd like to have and finish before the world ends. Whoa, okay. If it was a cocktail, I'd probably have myself a Negroni, because it's one of my favourites. It's nice and bitter, just like me. But if it was the world ending, I'd probably want like a glass of fine champagne or something. That seems like a pretty good way to toast the end, doesn't it? I don't know. What about you?
Bailey's.
Bailey's.
Lots of it. Right. Well, we're on our way out.
Mint Baileys or just the regular one?
Oh, dude, I'd probably take any of them, to be honest with you. And it would be enough that I would no longer remember taste after I've had enough of it.
Yeah, it doesn't take much with Baileys for me. I feel like I'm drinking a pudding of some sort.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff.
I was at the Rum Festival in Edinburgh over the weekend. That was lovely. I had some damn nice rums there. They were just given out for free. It's awesome. Anyway, next one is Zidel Fastro, who says Hollywood has to invent a story for everything. They want their legacy left behind on everything, told by them and no one else, no matter how good or bad. The destruction of a legacy that isn't theirs is part of the plan. It is a real thing, isn't it? You know, that they've become real big on prequels, like kind of going back before the main narrative and filling in all the blanks that we never really wanted filled in.
Is it that they become big on that, or they're big on making money, and that is just a really good way to do it? Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, some of the choices they make end up flopping big time. And then they try again. Like, it's weird that Genesis was attempted, and then they were like, that didn't go well. Everyone hated it. Okay, moving on. Let's try Dark Fate. It's like, why would you... Like, where's the logic? Sometimes I really do get baffled by their choices. But it's just a series of bad decisions made by people who don't know what they're doing, and then they're just sort of... The product just ends up flopping out. And you're just like, ugh. But then you have stuff like the Star Wars sequels, which is very planned in terms of it hoping to make the money.
I think the thing that I find really annoying and frustrating about it is this notion of it's one thing to make a sequel to something like, you know, far beyond it, and you can say, well, okay, and that's its own thing. But when you make a prequel, you're kind of saying to the audience, well, these characters, this world that you really enjoy, it all came about because of X, Y, and Z that we did, you know, and it all owes its debt to the characters that we wrote.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like, because it feels very disrespectful when they try and appropriate all that stuff, and it's like, well, probably Star Trek's a good example where they did Discovery, and it's like, well, you know, Spock and Kirk and all the classic characters, that's all because of Michael Burnham. It's just everyone kind of forgot about her, and I just think, God, that's so narcissistic to have to do that. Next one is Jack Tech, who says, "Don't discount the talent of Tony Gilroy. The man won Academy Awards. He doesn't need to toe the line with Lucasfilm to push a message." I mean, I think a lot of Andor's success probably is down to him.
I'd
Yeah, I mean,
imagine.
he's a good director, and I don't know, was he writing it as well? I would need to
I'd
check.
have to check. Yeah.
But yeah, it just I compare the direction of this, and I said this the other night, like the gun battles, the firefights, the action sequences, how like kinetic and gritty and real that they feel, how immediate. I compare that to something like the shootout at the end of Book of Boba Fett, which was just a video game cutscene from a PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah.
So shit.
And the PlayStation 2 game as well, because it was like a game that the people who made the original IP didn't care what it was, and so they were like, "Can we just have loads of fun stuff? Like, just throw in a Rancor, throw in a whole bunch of mercenaries. Let's have Boba and some other Mandalorian guy just shooting together. We'll make it co-op campaign. It'll be great."
Yeah. Yeah, you could practically put health bars on things, and because
Yeah.
people just stand blasting away at vehicles and monsters for hours. The Winged Horse Garage says the drinker fixies Ray actually goes to the dark side because everything came way too easy for her, a female Sith. That would have been a story I would have enjoyed. They never would have done it, obviously, because you can't criticize women. But a Ray who basically goes down the Anakin path, where she's like too talented or too powerful in the Force, and she can't control it properly, and she gets tempted by the dark side, and that would have been pretty good. Imagine someone like Finn had to try and stop her because he's also Force sensitive, like they originally planned, and he loves her, but he doesn't want to fight her. Something, I don't know.
Yeah.
You could do a lot with that. Desert Fox says Battlestar Galactica was how good writing was done. It was pretty good. Bit of a shit ending because I feel like they didn't really know what they were trying to say with a lot of the stuff, but yeah, it was very good at creating a believable, lived-in world. So I appreciated that about it.
I never
Mister
saw it.
No, what's that, man?
I never saw it. I probably should though.
You should go back. Yeah, really feels like it was one of those trailblazers for like gritty, believable sci-fi that wasn't pristine like Star Trek and everyone was like super efficient and good at their jobs. Like it was much more like the real military where you've got a lot of slackers and like the equipment doesn't work properly and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
they have to kind of pull through despite all those shortcomings. So that was a pretty good way of doing it. Mr. Nobody says, "I'm convinced the She-Hulk writers' room was a week-long wine-fueled adult sleepover written between pillow fights and group ugly crying." That's probably not far off, I wouldn't say.
Dude, like I said, the watching the behind the scenes for Arcane, where they're constantly questioning every decision they make, and they think that they've destroyed their own careers with how much this is not going to work out. Versus the She-Hulk writers were probably like, with every word they put down, they're probably like, "Oh my god, this is so good. This is just so good. Everything we're doing, oof, so great."
Do you think, yeah, do you think there was any real studio oversight, or do you think it was all just like patting them on the back and saying like, "Yeah, you're doing great, ladies. Well done." Just
It's really
letting them
hard
have
to
a.
say because maybe it's as weird as this sounds, both let loose and studio destroyed. You'd be like, how does that work? And you're like, so like they let them loose, they create a bunch of stuff, and then all that stuff gets put through like a machine of what you're allowed to keep, and it's just this jumbled garbage that's like approved of whatever they came up with themselves. I don't know if that maybe could apply because I think it could explain how awful She-Hulk is. It's quite special in its awfulness, you know.
I think so, and it really feels to me like a show that didn't have the Marvel training wheels on it. Actually, at least to begin with, it feels like, at least with the other ones like Falcon and the Winter Soldier or WandaVision, it felt like there was an element of quality control there. Like the writing wasn't great, but it feels like there was some kind of oversight in terms of,
Yeah.
I guess, just the dialogue, the visuals, all that sort of thing. Whereas with this, man, it's like nobody was checking to see if it was actually any good until, I don't know, maybe it was too late. I mean, I have heard that they did initial screenings of it and it was absolutely disastrous, and they had to like delay it so they could scramble to try and fix it. And I don't know, maybe that explains why some of the or all of the CGI really is so shit. It's like they had to just do it quickly on the cheap to try and correct this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Um, Next one is Sebastian Sarkim, who says the fact that She-Hulk was greenlit in its current form is absurd. I'm beginning to wonder if this really is one big money laundering scheme. It's baffling. It really is, mate. That
They're
they can
pushing
make.
it like crazy at this point. Like in terms of it's getting to critical levels, and in terms of you can't release this, it's not ready.
Yeah,
They're like, watch this, and you're like, oh, all right.
it seems like it's getting so much attention as well. Like, Ms. Marvel. I get the impression that wasn't great either, but no one seemed to care that much. It was just kind of
Yeah.
came and went, and no one was really very bothered. But I don't know, with this, man, it's like they're making it into a real battleground, and this is not a hill you want to die on.
It's always been weird how that works because, as you know, it gets odd when if they focus on like, oh, it's racism or it's blah, 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 and then simultaneously this other thing has come out that barely anybody is doing anything with, and it's like, oh, wouldn't the racists hate this too?
Yeah,
And it's like, the newest one for that is House of the Dragon. Everybody made comments about how people are only going to dislike it because of racism, and people like it. So
yeah.
now what?
Apparently, the Woman King's getting pretty good reviews as well. And again, it's like
Yeah, I've heard
you know,
that. Yeah,
pretty much entirely black cast, and people are like, yeah, it's a good movie though. It's great. It is great when things like that come out, and it's like, say your narrative is absolute bullshit. Like people appreciate good stories. Doesn't matter about the
what I've
diversity.
heard is that people are pissed off that it's. I'm trying to find a better term for this because it implies something else. But when I say whitewashing, I'm referring to, of course, morally whitewashing.
Not historically accurate, I guess we could say generously.
Yes, but the thing is, that's a whole conversation. I've
I mean,
seen people bring up Braveheart, which kind of whitewashed a lot of what William Wallace's side got up to.
I
Um,
was gonna reference that. Yeah, like I would judge Braveheart on two different levels. Like as a piece of Hollywood storytelling, great,
mhm.
good stuff. As any kind of like historical account of what actually happened, like it's way oversimplified, and yeah, like you say, cuts out a lot of the unpleasant stuff that Scottish people did to English prisoners and things, just for the sake of like telling a nice and neat story.
Yeah,
So
and that's what we've talked about on EFAB a couple of times. It's like I think that there's always a conversation to have about the term like respect, and then maybe the implications for culture and what it teaches people who are very unaware of that part of history, because they're more likely to watch and remember movies than they are remember that one history lesson where someone was like, blah, 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 blah. They might not even been taught that part of history, and so the movie's all they got, and then they go on forever. That's a whole conversation on its own, but because we've had it so many times that we usually bring up Inglorious Bastards. Everyone agrees that movie's
mm,
pretty awesome, but could you make the argument that Inglorious Bastards is disrespecting history by, changing the timeline and showing you things that didn't actually happen? I don't know if you know this, but Sitch thinks that Inglorious Bastards is a bad film because it like indulges in fantasy of like how we could have gotten Hitler, and that's like. I can't remember what word he would use, so I don't want to put words in his mouth. But I'd never heard that take before.
I think well, it was always built as like an alternative history,
Yeah, and
action
he's
movie.
saying he's not a huge fan of alt history when it just sort of it's like a wish fulfillment. He really doesn't like movies that do that.
I mean, I think that just comes down to personal preference in that case. I can't really say
Hmm.
that he's wrong to feel that way. Like, it doesn't bother me necessarily, as long as there's a pretty clear distinction of, this film is not pretending to be accurate. And I think, I don't know how the Woman King is billed and how it's been marketed. If it's clear that, if it's made clear that, this is just a story that's loosely based on real people or whatever, fair enough. If it tries to claim that it's like an actual account of real history, and it's like, okay, that's where I would start to have an issue with it. You're
That's interesting because
mismarketing yourself.
how do you feel about the Coen brothers doing that with Fargo? And that even happens in the Fargo show. He'll open with saying this is based on true events, and it's absolutely not.
Yeah, I would probably say it's a dangerous road to go down then, because people are going to start believing it.
Hmm.
So I
I think
would
the
not
whole idea,
recommend it.
the reason they do that, right? Because I remember looking into it. So it might be paraphrasing or I might be wrong, but I think they say something like it gets audiences a little bit more engaged if they think this stuff actually happened.
Yeah, it probably does, and I think it is with with the Coen brothers, though. I feel like you don't really need that level of marketing. Like people would watch them anyway.
No, yeah, I agree
Um,
with you. They really didn't need to do it, but
Pain and have you ever watched that movie Pain and Gain with The Rock and
yes.
Mark Wahlberg? Like, you know how that kind of dicks around with that whole concept of like, because every so often it'll show you like them doing something totally ridiculous, and it'll be like, "Yep, this actually did happen, though."
Hmm.
Um, and it's like still true events. That's kind of fun. Like it's messing around with it, but it is actually kind of sticking to the basis of the story. I don't know, like um, there's obviously like more detailed conversations you could have about the ideas behind that and how far you can push it and so on. But yeah, as a general principle, yeah, I think I'd rather make it clear that something's not accurate. Um, but hey. Ian So Forth said, She-Hulk will get a second season. I'm calling it. Recommissioning rubbish is the next two-finger salute to the audaciously sensible. It probably will. And I think they were saying that She-Hulk will eventually end up in one of the movies, won't she?
Yeah, presumably, I don't see why not.
If they do an A-Force movie, she'll absolutely be there. You know,
Yes.
it's just yeah.
I think your phone's going off.
Oh yeah, it's vibrating. Look, it's just the doorbell thing. It's like the Ring doorbell linked to
It's
my
just
phone.
funny. 'Cause it's like, brrr.
It's because the microphone stand is attached to the
Yeah, yeah.
desk, so it's vibrating. Alex Edge says, unrelated to the current discussion, but are you planning to review the later seasons of Cobra Kai? So I'm almost finished actually. What I tend to do is just a live stream talking about it. I'll get a few people on who really like it, and we can chat about it that way. I don't want to keep making like scripted videos every season because there's only so much I can say about it. But hey, it's a good one to kick back with a few beers and talk about. So that's probably what I'll do. Sandy Q says, "Thank you for the intelligent conversation. It's a dying art, and the lovely accents I could listen to all day and night. Cheers, gentlemen. We did
Oh,
have some
thank
posh
you.
voices on, didn't we?
We did. Brits. We had a Brit only one.
Yeah. Whenever you or Little Platoon is on, I always feel like I have to up my accent game.
Oh, you got a really great one anyway. It's very unique, you know. And I say unique as if those people don't have it, but I just mean it stands out and people like it. Good old Scottish.
Yeah. Well, at least it doesn't make people's ears bleed yet, so that's
Yeah.
good. Schlongel says, last week's Shocky episode had me thinking, is this show supposed to be filler? This week's episode answered that with a very loud yes. Also, hope you lads are doing well. Cheers from the Schlong. Yeah, some episodes they really do just feel like, we had to put something in there. Why not?
Yeah.
I could literally summarize the previous episodes like Jen goes to a wedding.
I
That's
think
that's it.
the writers would sum it up that way. It seemed like it was very self-aware filler. It was just like whatever. Also, Titania's there. Also, they fight, and it's really bad. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah. Do you think every episode just started with that, like one sentence, premise? It's like Jen tries dating, Jen goes to a wedding. Just like the most simple possible summary of what they're gonna do.
yeah,
Does it
probably.
tie into a narrative? Nah, not really. Who cares? Post Captain Aubrey says, The Little Platoon, I love you. Thanks for the hours of entertainment. Your content differs from Mauler, and you do not come off as just another clone, which is all good.
Yeah, he sold himself that way on I think on EFAP. And I was like, no, 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 because I've even seen his stuff. I don't. Sometimes you'll get an impression when you see new creators who are definitively inspired. You're like, oh, you kind of copying, but that's fine. Inspired, but like with him, he's definitely got his own style. He's doing great.
Yeah. No, he brings some really good analysis to bear, so yeah, good
Oh,
on
he
him.
was fantastic on EFAP. He was for nearly 12 hours. He was just going hardcore, and he's got his Tolkien lore and Drinkers 2 episodes, 12 hours on 2 episodes.
I mean, there is a lot. There is a lot to criticize and break down with that show, and
There is indeed.
yeah, I don't know how I'm going to keep my review to some kind of tolerable length when it comes out.
You're waiting for the whole season out first, is it?
Probably, yeah. Although I think it might work out kind of shit timing wise because I'm going to be off on vacation for a week in middle of October, which I think is when it ends.
Oh, dude, my October is every single day. I've either got a stream or some heavy editing to do.
Yeah, it's
It's gonna be a fun month though.
it's a busy month. Yeah, and there's lots of horror stuff I want to try and do. So
Yeah.
Mike DeMore says there was a sketch in the ending credits with the bride kissing Jen's brother. My God, he is such a creep. Is that the guy who like he's a manager at like Target or Best Buy or something?
Oh, the Chad, is that the guy?
Yeah,
I've
I
only
can't
ever
even.
thought he's the idiot. Lol. It's like the
Yeah,
problem is all of your characters are stupid, so I can't tell the difference.
I just can't. I can't bring myself to watch the post credit scenes if I can avoid them. I just want to get out of it as quickly as possible and go take a shower or something. It's
Yeah.
it's like get me out of here. The farm engineer says the Marvels is like a subprime mortgage package. It's an abstracted bundle of subprime heroes. That's kind of yeah. It's gonna be an interesting film. I can't wait for the trailer to come out for the Marvels. It's gonna get savaged. You just know it.
It, I think a lot of us are kind of excited because I just think it's gonna be so stupid, and pointless, and rubbish. That's just like, yeah, this will be fun for us to just pick at and look at
Yeah.
another failed attempt. But hey, we're always ready for it to be good as well, and you'll find that we'll mention it if we think they nail anything.
I think we'd be so shocked that like we would feel the need to shout about it and be like, "Holy shit, this is amazing!" you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could happen. Who knows? Justin Stoll says, "Have whiskey shot on me, drinker, and I really love Andor." Well, that is all good. I've only got coffee at the moment, but I'll do that later. Don't worry.
You know, on just on that thought, I saw a subreddit post on the Star Wars meme subreddit that was like, it showed Rey screaming while she has her lightsaber, and then it showed a crowd of people being like, "Ugh," and then it showed Vi from Arcane screaming while she's about to do a fight with her fists, and then it shows the crowd cheering, and it was like, just going to present this as if like it's hypocritical, and I was just like, you can't even make the sexism argument with that one, don't you?
No.
Like the people who are presenting that, they must actually think for a second there because they're trying to be critical. They're trying to be like, see, you don't like Ray for no good reason. But if they're saying like you like Vi, a woman, it's like, so you can't pull the sexism card. Then what do you think it is?
Yeah,
And
it's like you're almost there. It's like just take
yeah,
that
you nearly
final
made it.
step and realize it's like people like Vi because she earned that stuff. You
And I think
know?
the top comment was like, oh yeah, sexism is rampant. But I will say, like Vi, unlike Ray, was allowed to get like beaten the fuck up and bloody just like any other guy, and she had to
Yeah.
really earn her way through that storyline. And I think that goes a long way, you know. And like I think someone else was like, "Hey, Ray like got scratched at one point."
Yeah.
Like, she sure
No,
did.
oh god, it's so funny. People still just desperately try to defend her even after years.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
just can't
old
let it
news
go.
now. We know the truth. It's been out for ages. Everyone's been analyzed to death. The sequel trilogy was an enormous mistake.
Yeah.
All three of them, not just one or two.
Yeah. You got to love the commitment, I suppose.
Yeah.
Waylon Bicefas says memes by Al or AI. Can't tell which one it is.
Ooh.
Random Eskimo says, let's go back to Harrison Ford and the Frisco Kid for a new name. Shit Hulk sounds more appropriate. Betrace says, rehash my joke. Sorry, rehash of my joke on Metal's stream. There are actually 9 reasons to kill She-Hulk. They're called episodes. That is very
Ooh.
true. Nine Sun says, I really like Nerdrotic and Az, but it is just relaxing listening to you four as nobody is constantly screaming.
It's a different vibe. Open
Yeah,
bar.
different people have different personalities when it comes
I
to
mean,
this stuff.
I enjoy the idea that it's like TV, but we were like teenagers and stuff. It's the same thing. It's like you got your time slots and it's different vibes and different panel hosts and different guests. Because I used to watch a shit ton of like panel shows, British ones back in the day, and all of them have different vibes, and yeah, open bars is somewhere between EFAP and Friday Night Tights, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. Samuel Shafiq says, Rings of Pow Pow. Miriel has a vision of the city getting destroyed by the sea. She goes to help Galadriel to prevent it. Why? Isn't the sea always right?
Like they didn't think about it when they said that. Okay, leave them alone.
I just yeah, I love Galadriel's tack as well. Like when she goes to meet with Halbrand and she's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry for like using you and manipulating you, but I'm about to use you and manipulate you into going back to Middle Earth."
I thought it
Um,
was great when she's like, some might say you've used me. And it's like, what are you talking about? He hasn't done anything with you. He's just trying to use his old forge. Like he's just trying to be left alone.
yeah, because she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting an army put together to take you back to Middle Earth and have you crowned king," and it's like you're missing the point that he doesn't fucking want to be king. Like
You're using
giving
me
him
too.
yeah, like giving him something he didn't ask for. That's not helping him. Like.
Yeah.
Oh man, but of course, like the show will never actually portray her as being wrong. That's the weird thing. Like it's the whole like you know Wanda effect,
Yeah.
where she's doing horrible things, but the show wants you to like her and believe that she's right anyway. It's like that doesn't work like that, man. David DiRienzo says, speaking of retcons, the ethnic cleansing that the writers have cornered themselves with that apparently takes place between the second and third ages. Yeah, it's something that I guess they can't really address. It's like, how come, all those diverse people have suddenly vanished from Middle Earth and it's all white people? I wouldn't put it past Amazon to buy the rights to Lord of the Rings, like the actual movies, and just like color correct people. To like go back and change it retrospectively. Um, Yeah. Did you see that stuff about the crowd that was it Bronwyn is given like a performance, like she has to make a
Yeah.
speech to everybody, and yeah, they just copy pasted and CGI'd you know everyone in.
I mean,
It's,
it's not
it's
unheard of
bizarre.
as a tactic for filmmaking. It's just you just don't exactly expect it with a crowd that big for a thing with that much money. That's all.
No, no.
And
Like
it
you couldn't
seems,
scrape together 100 extras just to do this
yeah, no, they
this
couldn't.
one scene.
Um, Also, I was just made aware, by the way, because did you see Mission Impossible Fallout?
Yeah, yeah.
You thought it was pretty good, I assume.
It's a very good film. Yeah.
I thought it was like excellent, especially with the way that it was created, being that the action came first and the script was made. It's a recipe for a worse film, but they managed to pull it together. So Christopher McQuarrie, who I have a decent chunk of respect for, he was asked on Twitter what has helped you the most when it comes to writing, and he said prioritizing character and emotion over logic and plot. And so some
Wow.
people are like, oh, and I was just like, before you see that as like a bad comment from him, try and imagine what he means when he says prioritizing character and emotion. He doesn't mean I hate logic and anything happens. He probably means keeping the characters consistent with however they're characterized, making sure there's an emotional benefit to it. Saying it's prioritized over logic and plot. A lot of writers, I think, say like, oh, I don't care as much about plot. But the thing is, plot. And I can't remember if we've talked about this. Plot is emergent from characters being well characterized.
I think
Um,
yeah. The characters and their values and how they would like make decisions should dictate how a scene goes.
yeah,
The trick is to obviously craft characters who fit the needs of the plot ultimately, and
yeah. Because if
like
you have
behave in a consistent way.
Shaun of the Dead, for example, Shaun is very well characterized, and the story is almost kicked off by him being like, "Well, I'm hungry. I'll go grab a cornetto." And he's just walking down the street, goes to grab it, comes back, and then it's like, "Oh, we need to go and pick up my mum, or go to work, or whatever." And it's the world itself is just set, and then it's going to be him interacting with it that makes the plot. This is the
Mhm.
one thing I've always found frustrating. I think I'm getting more and more seeing it more and more is like plot is seen as like a lame thing when it's like, how do you have plot gone and character remain? It's like, well, you need to have characters not make any decisions at that point. They just need to sit around and have traits. And it's just like you don't really, even with stuff where it's just like a movie or an episode of TV where they're just in a room. It's like,
Mhm.
what's the plot? And it's like, well, you describe it as a bunch of characters trying to figure out a thing, or they discuss a thing. That is the plot at that point. Plot doesn't have to be, something like nuts and bolts. They have to go from A to B, and
No,
that's
it's
it.
just anything that they do really becomes the
Pretty much,
plot.
yeah.
Yeah. This when we were talking about this, this is quite. I was mentioning this earlier. I'm very impressed with the character writing in House of the Dragon.
Hmm.
Particularly, is it Viserys, the
The king.
Paddy
Yeah.
Considine's character? Yeah. The way how he's portrayed as kind of a good man, but a bad king. And like the fact that his main weakness is that he can't really take decisive action that would harm members of his family. Like that's his they are his weakness, and that causes him to like overlook problems that ultimately are going to blossom into much bigger ones further down the line. And it's kind of his like inability to act decisively early on is what's really setting in motion all the conflict that's going to happen in this
I'd say
show.
it's that combined with the fact that he's surrounded by a lot of people who are very self-interested, and not many of them want to make the sacrifices that they need to for the realm, so to speak.
Yeah,
Because if like Rhaenyra, for example, was very dutiful, we'd be dealing with a lot less problems right now.
yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, if Damon wasn't a total asshole, then yeah,
that's the
it'd be
thing
very
of
harmonious.
the series at this point, the story isn't really even making the decisions now. He's weak enough and sort of frail that his wife is definitely taken over. She's pushing further. Have you seen the latest episode?
No, I'm on episode 6, so like I need to watch episode 6.
Ah, well, yeah, fully recommend it. It's I saw it as they come out. I'm very happy with House of the Dragon right now.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better. Like I was saying this earlier in the stream before you came on that the first few episodes it was kind of a cautious start, and I was kind of impressed with it just on a like a logical level. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that they put a bit of thought into this, and it's quite well developed. I just haven't been like emotionally invested in it. But with episode 5, that's when it kind of kicked in. I'm like, okay, it feels like things are starting to gather pace now, and I'm caring a lot more about it now and what happens because it feels like the status quo is pretty much gone now, and anything could kind of happen.
Yeah, I'd be curious to
That's
see what you think of six. It's
mm,
a decent amount of developments again.
okay.
10 year skip, by the way.
Ah, Viserys can't still be alive in 6
He
then.
is indeed still alive, but when I use the word frail, it's very applicable. Let's just put it that way.
Jesus, I because he collapses at the end of 5, and I thought that's it, he's dead now. And
Yeah,
now
it's a curiosity. There's a couple of you're talking to somebody who hasn't doesn't know the ending, by the way. So I enjoy. I get to speculate. Gary, on the other hand, like knows exactly what's going to happen for the most part. Um, I thought it was curious that the Maester in episodes 1 through 5 keeps using leeches, and it's not helping. Like he's just getting worse and worse and worse. And then, do you remember this? And this is House of the Dragon, man. Like this is so much more effort than anything else. Episode 5, the Maester's applying leeches again, or at least suggests so. And his understudy says we should probably use and then name something. I can't remember what it
it's
was.
like a herbal poultice or
Yeah,
something on his skin.
and
Yeah, and he's like,
and
no,
he's
no, we
like,
don't need that.
yeah, we don't, we're not going to use that. And it's just like, because there's ideas of like, are the Maesters, at least Melosh, I think his name was, like, is he sabotaging the king to some extent? And maybe there's a motivation there, or is he just kind of set in his ways as an older Maester, which can happen with doctors and stuff. But he gets up in that episode. He just stands up, but he's Rocky himself. He's like, ugh, and then his understudy tries to help him, and he's like, get off me, like I'm fine. Skip forward 10 years, and again, this you see this immediately. It's not a spoiler. He's dead now. That Maester,
Hmm.
he's gone, and his understudy has replaced him as the main Maester. And I would say Paddy, despite seeming frailer over those 10 years, seems a little bit happier, of better moods. And you wonder maybe if it could mean many things. Maybe he was sabotaging him, and this new Maester is now actually giving him the treatment he needs, and is thus keeping him better, or this thing is really just takes a while to kill you, whatever he's got.
Hmm.
But I'll be honest with you, man. I'm very happy to get any more seconds with him. I really like that character.
Yeah, I think he's because in a show where like most of the people are kind of like either selfish or
Hmm.
morally gray, like he seems like one of the few genuinely good people in it. He tries to do his best. He's not really prepared for the responsibility of being king, and he doesn't want to do it. But you can see that he does take the role seriously, and I think all those things combined together, it's like, yeah, it kind of feels like a very human and like normal person reaction to being in a position like this.
What seems to make him happy the most is knowing that his family are happy, and
Yeah,
that makes me very happy for him to be happy. I just want him to be okay because it's like, oh, you're such a nice dude.
Yeah, you kind of feel like if he was just retired from being king and he was just like pottering about the garden or something, like he'd be
Yeah.
a perfectly happy chap. Yeah, I remember there's a few scenes where he's like celebrating things with his family, like having a banquet or something, and like someone will come in and it'd be like, oh, there's some official business that you have to tend to, and you can see how angry or how irritated he is that he has to
Yeah.
do it. He's like, oh, just fucking leave me alone. I just want to enjoy myself for once. You
Yeah, and
know,
he
it's all good.
hesitates with bigger decisions in general because he always thinks about the bad results, no matter which direction you go. Like people are going to die, bigger things are going to happen, which is then interesting because you said you've seen episode 5, right? Episode 5 is where he starts talking about his legacy, and he's like,
Yeah.
"I was a king of peace. Do people even care about kings the peaceful reigns? It's that much? It's like not many
It's an
songs will be
interesting
sung."
Yeah, it's an interesting question to ponder, isn't it? Because like, I guess that's his whole personality. He's just been about like holding the line and kind of trying to
Hmm.
maintain the status quo, I guess. Um, and as a result, yeah, like he said, I've not had any great victories, but I've not had any great disasters either. You know, like what am I going
Also,
to be
that's the thing
remembered
about,
for?
not to keep us going on the subject, I just find it really interesting. The That's the thing about calling him like a bad king. I find interesting sometimes because I wonder if it's more so due to just he is in a uniquely bad position to have to deal with in terms of all of his subjects and his advisors are all so they're pulling him in all different directions for what they want. It's a very
I
difficult
think
position.
I think is particularly in the first few episodes, his problem is that, like I said before, I don't think he's willing to act decisively if it would harm a member of his family. Like when Damon has clearly like overstepped his bounds and he's like actually a threat now to the stability of the realm. It's like, well, that's the point where you kind of have to step in and like either have him put under
Oh, he does
arrest or
banish him, right?
yeah, but then he's still free to do whatever he wants, and he's got like an army behind him, so he can cause a hell of a lot of trouble, even if he's been sent up north or wherever he's gone to.
Yeah, because he takes Dragonstone and Viserys is like, hey, stop that, rather than something more definitive, I guess. And then, of course,
He
he does
starts a
come
war
back. He
as
comes
well.
back and he's accepted. Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess you could say he deals with a war that's already started. Because the Stepstone, you're talking about the Stepstones, right? Or
Yeah, yeah.
because yeah, that's underway before Damon gets involved. But he, you know,
It, it is in the sense that like the what's his name, the Crab King or something, the Crab Feeder. Like
yes,
he's harassing shipping and stuff, and he's basically just causing a lot of problems. It's not like an outright war yet, but then that's when Damon goes in unprepared and lacking the sort of resources needed to actually win a decisive victory. So it just becomes this long drawn out campaign that looks it makes the realm look bad, basically.
yeah, I agree with that. The funny thing to me was just that's one of the things I didn't like about the show. I found it hard to believe that Damon wouldn't have destroyed the Crab Feeder and all of his men pretty easily. It's
I think
a
they've nerfed dragons a little bit for the sake of
little
the
bit, yeah.
because there's so many of them in this. Like we can't have them be these absolute death machines like they were in Game of Thrones, because otherwise any conflict would be over in a matter of like hours if that ever happened.
I saw chatters talking about this, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that maybe would be. So you know, in a cave, if you run in a cave for safety against dragon fire, and then it blows fire into the cave, it'll like vacuum suck all of the oxygen out.
Yes.
Apparently, that's how it works. And I was just like, oh yeah. So basically, that's one of the bigger problems. You can't really hide from a dragon in a cave. That's not. It sounds like it might work, but like when they shoot that shit in there, it's like you're gonna have a lot of trouble. I guess you'd need the cave to be absolutely enormous, and maybe you'd be okay.
If it splits into lots of passages and there's
Yeah.
like right angled corners and things, you might be able to dodge it that way. But yeah, like you say, if the dragon was just to stand at the entrance and breathe fire into it, like even if the flames don't kill you, the oxygen will get consumed by the
Yeah,
fire, and then you're dead either way.
and maybe I wasn't clear on like why I think this is absurd. It's like when a dragon arrives and they all go, "Ah, we'll hide in the caves, can't get us now." It's like, yeah, but the dragon can get all of your ships. You've abandoned them now, so it's just gonna be
Yeah,
boom, 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 and then what? Like, how are you? This is what I mean. I don't understand how for 3 years the crab feeder stayed in this war. I don't get it.
yeah. It's it feels like it was slightly done for convenience sake.
Yeah.
Anyway, I should probably get back to the super chats.
Hmm.
It's a sign of how good the show is, though, that we can get drawn
Absolutely,
into a
yeah.
discussion about it. Yeah, Revenge of the Sixth says, as far as Andor goes in the first 2 episodes, I paid close attention to the environments, background characters, mood, and cinematography. There was lots to appreciate. Very canonized set designs here, 10 out of 10 stuff. I think that's a good way of putting it, actually. it holds your attention. It just feels like there's lots of interesting stuff going on that you want to look at. Whereas you compare that to Book of Boba Fett or Obi-Wan Kenobi, it just very much looked like a lazy Star Wars set for a Disney show. You know, whereas now it feels like you're part of a much more lived-in world, and that's commendable, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
Gleeman says, "Hey, love you all. There shouldn't be a continuation of the series. Halt any production of season 2. Start drafting an entirely new show. Get Tom Shippey back and say sorry. We'll try again." I think, yeah, they obviously can't do it at this point because they're committed. But that's probably the only way to fix this now. Yeah, a whole new writing team. I don't know. Could you imagine a scenario where season 2 of Rings of Power really picks up in terms of writing quality, and we're like, okay, all is forgiven. You got off to a rocky start, but you've really hit your stride now.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think, yeah, they're too far gone?
It's a bit,
I mean, they've still got the same shit actors, so there's not much you can do about that.
yeah, well, you can always have hope? Question mark.
You
Because
said without much conviction.
That meme always comes around, right? And so I have to be principled on this. You know when they like, it's gonna be shit, and someone goes, "How do you know that?" Then they have the meme of the guy who's literally standing over the plate, and he's like about to shit on the plate. It's like, you don't know that it's gonna be shit. It's like, I totally understand that because it's how we do prediction. We look at history, we look at all the things we're aware of, and then we see like, and just everything points to it being shit. So yeah, if we're going to predict anything, it's that it's going to be shit. And then someone goes, "Yeah, but you don't know." You're like, fine, I don't know. Yeah, a little diamond could come out of that guy's ass. That's true, but I guess we'll see.
It's funny as well. Like on the rare occasions where we call it wrong, it's like there's always people there that see it as some kind of own. Like, you said this was going to be crap and it was really good, but you're pissed off now. And it's like, why would I be pissed off that I got a good show when I expected a bad one or a good movie?
It was bizarre. That guy who made a video about like myself and yourself and stuff. He was like, with House of the Dragon, they were wrong and they tried to like find a way to toe the line and pander to their audiences despite having lied to them. And I was like, what are you talking? I thought it would be bad. I still can tell you that. I thought it was going to be bad. I don't think it's bad. This is a normal human process that takes place.
Like, yeah, it's like you say you see a trailer and you go by what you've known previously, and it's like, well, based on all this, it doesn't look good. I think it's gonna be bad. But then you get new information, you watch it, and it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't representative of the finished product, and it's been surprisingly good. Great, I'm fine with that. Like it happened with Andor to some extent as well, so far anyway.
I thought Rings of Power would be bad. Turns out it was even worse than I thought it would be. So, that happens too.
Yeah. No one said, would you ever consider a sponsor or review of my favorite movie series? No, I wouldn't. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get in the position where people are like paying me to review things because, it might be like, oh, your favorite childhood movie. Like, go and review it, Drinker. And then I end up hating it. And it's like, I'm probably not going to make you too happy if that happens. And it's pretty unethical as well. So, yeah, I review the things that I'm personally interested in, or when people suggest things sometimes, it's like, oh, yeah, that is an interesting movie to talk about. So that's my basis for it. He says, also, I think you will enjoy Night Riders with Ed Harris, 1981, and The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, 2001. I would like to see your review of either one of those. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I keep them in mind. But yeah, I mean, generally, I'm not going to do like sponsored reviews or anything like that. Wake Robbins says, Shelob, Arachnid at Law. That I would pay to see. Yeah, just a giant horrific spider like coming into the courtroom, wrapping up the jury and stuff and eating them.
Yeah.
Glenn Victor Lundstrom says, Durin the Third is a very good actor. The rest is garbage. I do like the guy who plays Elendil. I think he's a good actor. I think he's a Scottish actor from what I remember.
I get a full impression that if he was given a script that's good, that we would be like, I like this guy. He just comes, he has a presence. And it's just unfortunate that he's just got to say bullshit from this script.
Yeah. Michael Shatkus says, if Ga was shown as triumphant coming back, and then as, assuming means Galadriel, and then she gets her reward, she understands that she led a suicide mission which ended up with her party being killed by a troll and jumps back to avenge them. Would that help her?
I think that making it her fault that a lot of them died in that fight would have been really suitable for a foundation for like you going too far and you getting people killed.
Yep.
Instead, they all get bashed around and nothing happens to them, I guess.
It was really unclear about whether any of them got killed or whether they survived, because I didn't see any like dead bodies lying on the ground at the end of that fight. It just kind of stops. But like they took injuries that really looked like they should have killed them. You know, getting thrown against walls and like hammered around by the trolls. Like that should have broken all the bones in your body. But yeah, who knows? I mean, she seems like kind of an asshole generally. Like when they're trekking through the snow and it's like we have to stop and help this person. Like, no, we're gonna keep going. Fuck him. It's like I don't know who's worse, her or the Harfoots. Like they're both psychopaths. It's like fuck your own people. Yeah.
And the writers do not intend for that to be the case for neither. They're like, no, they're both. What do you mean? The Harfoots are cute and wholesome. What do you mean?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's what makes them extra sinister is that they're portrayed as these like jolly Irish stereotypes who are just having fun and playing fun music and stuff and dancing around and then the moment the shit hits the fan, they're like, yeah, take the wheels off their cart and leave them to fucking die. Like,
yeah,
that makes it extra sinister because it's cloaked in this layer of like sickly sweet like jolliness. God. Ugh. Like you say, the writers are just not aware of this. That's the really weird thing about this show. Anach01 says, the obvious protagonist of the Second Age is Isildur. The first season, the downfall of Numenor, and subsequent seasons, the establishment of the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. Yeah, that makes sense. But we couldn't have a male hero, could we? Probably not, no. Isildur is just this dorky teenage kid. And he really pisses me off because he's one of those characters who's like gives up and squanders like amazing opportunities for no good reason. Like gives up his chance to be in the Navy. Why? Don't know. Because he's looking for something, apparently.
We've all been there.
Yeah. What are you looking for, Isildur? I don't know. That's why I'm looking for it. It's so vague. Like the writers don't even really know what to do with him. So shit. Jonathan Pitcher gave me $99 US, so thank you, sir. Marangatu says, Drinker, you need to look up Wolfwalkers. Preferably now, you won't be disappointed. Wolfwalkers. Okay.
That's a cool movie. I've seen that.
Nice. Waylon Bucephus says, in the books, Daemon is actually a good father. In my view, Daemon is supposed to represent everything good and bad about the Targaryens. Well, anyways. Yeah, I mean, he murdered his wife, so it doesn't seem entirely good.
All I'll say is you haven't seen him with his kids just yet.
Is he nice
Drinker hasn't, anyway.
All right, we'll see where it goes.
Well, I guess that commenter didn't either, because let's just say 10-year skip. He was interested in a particular lady last we saw him. Maybe he has kids now.
Okay. Doey says, House of the Dragon is mid. Disparu and Little Platoon are awesome. Well, there we go.
Well, I agree with half of that.
Yeah. Dave Soft says, chat has reached 100% Wong, and I am pleased. There was a lot of Wong memes going around. It was superb. Jeff Kincannon says, the Critical Drinker, maybe for another forum, but I've been reading Dark Harvest. I hear all the narration in your real-world voice. Thanks. I hope so, indeed. So, yeah, thanks for reading it, man. The Gourd King says, I called Rings of Power the WNBA fantasy shows, and it is, but that's what makes She-Hulk. Sorry, what does that make She-Hulk? I've written myself into a corner. She-Hulk is like TNA wrestling or something in comparison.
Just kids in a, like, I don't know, just outside on the grass, just walking into each other.
Like retarded kids.
Yep.
What's the next one? Doey says, saying House of the Dragon is the best show when it's racing against Rings of Power, Disney, and Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars. At this point, is hardly a win. Someone average versus the Special Olympics. I don't think we're really like rating it in relation to that. We were just saying generally it's quite a good show.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Akumu says there's a Variety article on the new Wizards of Oz going woke. The straw man is gay, Tin Person is gender fluid, Cowardly Lion is a lesbian, Oz is asexual. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Why not? Sir Pete NY, and this is the last one, says, have any of you gotten the chance to see Stephen Amell's show Heels? I think you guys would like it. Heels? Not me, no. I don't know if Mahler has. Hello?
Sorry, did you say heels?
Yeah.
You asking if I've seen it, or
Yeah. I haven't, but I don't know if you have.
doesn't sound familiar at all?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, my friend. Neither of us have seen it, but apparently he reckons we would like it, so take that as a recommendation, I guess. But yeah, that's all the super chats. So that was easy.
Yeah.
That was all good. Yeah, and I'm weirdly sober for this one, so I apologize in advance for when people actually see this. But yeah, it's middle of the day, and I just had a coffee, so there we go. I'm bouncing around. But yeah, I guess the next time you catch me, I'll probably do. Well, I'm going to be on Friday Night Sights on Friday, obviously. So
sweet.
catch me there, and I might do like an Ask the Drinker stream this week at some point. So stay tuned. But anyway, that's all we got for today. So go away now.
Bye bye.